Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is GB, so GB. Yeah, you can interpret that to mean anything. It could be governing body, it could be uh, Gilbert, Bernard, or whatever you call it. But yes, my name is GB, and this is my YouTube channel, JW Skeptic. Okay, so in this video, it's a first video I'm going to share on YouTube, and I guess it's going to be a little bit messy, and bear with me on that. I hope to improve as I go. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about things I have never understood as a witness. No, by the way, I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I've been a witness, this is 15 years now. I've served as an elder before for 3 years, and I've been a regular pioneer. Okay. Now, so in this series of videos, I'm going to try to talk about things which I've not understood as a witness, and hoping that maybe somebody out there has understood them, or let's see what other people think about it. So in this video specifically, I'm going to talk about the first thing, okay, which is 1914. Now, most of us as witnesses may not understand this for what it is or how serious it is. Well, 1914 is like a pillar of most of our doctrines. In fact, our organizations, its validity, is very much tied to 1914 as a doctrine. So, if there's anything tricky about this or something that we can't understand, we indeed have to be skeptical, because this is something that really matters to any witness who is out there. Now, in the first place, I have to acknowledge that a number of witnesses do not really understand how to explain this in the field ministry, how to convince someone that 1914 is indeed the year when Christ began to rule, by means of calculations, okay? Now, in our Bible teach book, we have got the appendix, page 215, okay? So this appendix says 1914, a significant year in Bible prophecy. Now, if you've been a witness for a long time, you've taught this a number of times to Bible students, and then probably it has become part of you. Now, I'm going to share with you some of the things I've never understood about this very topic right here. Now, let's go to where it begins from. The teaching of 1914 is given birth to by the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. Now, this is what is highlighted here in a paragraph here. Now, I'll try to refer to this paragraph here, okay? So, let me just look at this. Where is that? Okay, so here. Okay, so I'll begin reading from the middle here where it says, the account in Daniel chapter 4, okay, holds the key to knowing how long that period will last. It relates a prophetic dream experienced by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He saw a tree of enormous height that was chopped down. Its stump could not grow because it was banded with iron and copper. The angel declared, let 7 times pass over it. Now, interestingly, this tree here, okay, this is the dream which gives birth to the teaching of 1914. So the explanation given here by the governing board is that this tree which Nebuchadnezzar had, which Nebuchadnezzar saw, also signifies something more important than what Daniel had explained. In the book of Daniel chapter 4, we're able to read what Daniel said about the tree, meaning Daniel said the tree represents you, King Nebuchadnezzar, and its being chopped down represented how Nebuchadnezzar was going to go away from his kingship until 7 times pass over, and then afterwards he was going to come back and then continue ruling. But afterwards, he was going to acknowledge that indeed Jehovah God is a sovereign ruler. But of interest is where we say here, okay, where you say, so the chopping down of a tree represents how God's rulership, as expressed through the kings of Jerusalem, would be interrupted. Now, stop there and think. Here we say, look, in Bible times, in the Bible, trees are sometimes used to represent rulership. Yes, like the way the tree represented the kingship of Nebuchadnezzar. But look, here it says, so the chopping down of the tree represents the symbolic tree represents how God's rulership, as expressed through the kings at Jerusalem, would be interrupted. Now, this is interesting. When you say so, what you are meaning is there's something that you are building upon. So then, we are building up from this, isn't it? So, in the Bible, trees are sometimes used to represent rulership. So, the chopping down of the tree represents how God's rulership, as expressed through the kings at Jerusalem, would be interrupted. But the question is, how is it that, on what basis are we saying that the chopping down of the tree represents God's rulership? How it was going to be chopped down, how it was going to be interrupted. Well, in the first place, we say the tree itself also represents God's rulership. On what basis is that? Because I've done research on this topic. I've tried to read around the scriptures. There is no single scripture which can explain satisfactorily to say this tree also represented God's rulership. Because as far as the prophecy in Daniel chapter 4, it represented Nebuchadnezzar, and everything explained, and this fulfillment came to pass right there and then. Well and good. The other point on the same that you also need to understand, something linked to 1914, is this. Okay? Look, oftentimes I've quoted Luke 21 verse 24, where Jesus says, Jerusalem will be trampled on by the nation until the appointed times of the nations, or the Gentile times, are fulfilled. Now, oftentimes we link this, the time in which Jerusalem will be trampled on, until the Gentile times are fulfilled. We have linked this to the 7 times that has been mentioned in the book of Daniel chapter 4. But here is a question. When you look at Luke chapter 1, here is a scripture here. And if we go back a bit, going back a bit to the context, I'll begin from verse 20. It says, however, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by encamped armies, then know that the dissolution of her has drawn near. Then let those in Judea begin fleeing to the mountains. Let those in the midst of her leave, and let those in the countrysides not enter into her. Because these are days coming, so these are days for meting out justice, in order that all the things written may be fulfilled. Woe to the pregnant women and those nursing a baby in those days, for there will be great distress on the land and wrath against his people. Now, if you look at this, the context of this, it explains something clear, that this was referring specifically to the city of Jerusalem then, because it was about to be destroyed by the Romans, as just as I mentioned here. And then Jesus mentioned this, and they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led captive into all nations. So this is literally talking about the nation of Jerusalem, how they were going to be killed. And then now Jesus says, and Jerusalem will be trampled by the nations until the appointed times of the nations are filled. This has everything to do with the destruction of Jerusalem back then. But then, do we see anything in here which really seems to connect to Daniel chapter 4, where we can say, yes, this period of trampling, yes, it indeed corresponds to that period when Jerusalem was when the tree was cut. How really can we connect Daniel chapter 4 to this verse here? It's just doesn't seem to rhyme so much. Okay. And then lastly, on the same part, 1914, look at this piece of information here. Okay. Well, let's look at this part here. Okay, so let me see if I can locate this. Where is this? Okay. Okay, which part is that? Okay. Okay, here. Revelation 12, verse 6 and 14 indicates that 3.5 times equals that number of days. 7 times would therefore last twice as long. Okay, that means days. But the Gentile nations did not stop trampling on God's rulership for a mere that period of days after Jerusalem's fall. Evidently, then, this prophecy covers a much longer period of time. On the basis of Numbers 14 and 34, Ezekiel 4, verse 6, we speak of a day for a year. The 7 times would cover that much number of years. So now the convention, from that much number of days to that much number of years, Well, can we conclusively say that indeed Daniel chapter 4, okay, that period should be expanded to say 7 multiplied by 360 to give so many days, and then we convert that to that number of years? If you look at these verses, if you look at in those verses, it is explained, in context that this period given here, the 40 days, must be referring to a year. But in the case of Daniel chapter 4, what Daniel says is simply 7 times, without giving a clue as that should be expanded into days or weeks or what. So then how clear are we that indeed when we expand this to so many years, that is very accurate? Can we really back this up by scripture and say, yes, this is what the scripture said? Now, what's our point of talking about all this? So I mentioned 3 things in here. One, that the fact that the 3 in Nebuchadnezzar's dream also represents God's rulership. That it's difficult to back it up in the scriptures. Okay. The second point is the fact that Christ mentioned about the trampling of the nation is linked to the 7 times. This is hard to find in the scriptures, if at all it can be found. The fact that the times mentioned in Daniel chapter 4 is supposed to be expanded to mean that much number of days and so many number of years, also that can't be backed up by scriptures. Now, if those 3 points cannot be conclusively, be found in the scriptures, the question is, are we sure we are teaching the truth about this? Well, I've spoken to a number of people about this, elders and the like, and it seems like a number of them don't seem to know the clear answers on this topic. And yes, it's one of the very, very important topics, as in our doctrines. So then the question is, are we sure we know the truth about this? So if you know something about this, and if you know some knowledge about where this comes from, if you can explain this by scriptures, leave your comments below. But know one thing for sure: these are the same things which we can use to determine whether we have the truth or not. If anything out of this is not based on scriptures, especially if the assumption that the 3 also represents God's rulership, if that point cannot be verified in scriptures, then it might render the whole of 1914 teaching to be now and invalid. Thank you so much for watching my channel, for watching my YouTube channel, and looking forward to have you on another video like this.